Hello, my name is Dominic Bradley, and this is my second competitive analysis on how to present your research. I will be deconstructing and talking about the similarities and differences of the cover/aim mechanic in Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Gears 5. The similarity of the cover and aim mechanic that I found between these two titles is that every object or world environment is tied into this mechanic, where once a player gets close enough to that object's collider, it will trigger, allowing the player to press a button to interact with it, in other words, to take cover or lean into it. Almost every map is designed this way, so no matter where the player goes, they have a defense mechanic to resort to when they're under fire, making the entire environment interactable. The first major difference between both cover systems is that the sliding effect and how it interacts with the interactable objects. In Gears 5, it seems the sliding mechanic was built in mind to get cover between areas, almost giving the player a gliding effect depending on how far the sliding distance is executed. In Call of Duty, the sliding only gets a player transformed behind cover, but it doesn't automatically put the player into cover. The player slides, but will need to manually press the button to get into that cover position. It seems the environment is raised high in the y-axis to match when the player's crouching height, so the player won't be able to lean against the wall or take cover during its prone animation. Even if the player gets onto an object, the wall in front of it will still read the player's y-axis. For example, here, if he gets on top of an object, he's still able to lean and get in cover on the next wall. Not only does it read it when the player is low, but as well as high. For example, when the player jumps, they are still not able to take the cover system while they're in midair. While aiming down sights, the player is still able to get into and out of cover, meaning that the aim system is tied into this as well to give the mechanic a more tactical feel. Call of Duty's cover mechanic makes the player more vulnerable since the player has to physically lean out to get the shot done, exposing the player's hitbox. I think this is the unintended applications of the premise. The edge case would be to add a blind fire into this mechanic so it doesn't expose the player's hitbox. In Gears 5, the cover and aim system is defensively better due to hiding the player's hitbox behind the object's collider. Unlike Call of Duty's sprint system, Gears is tied into the cover system as well, by gaining the speed of velocity of the player's transform, and if it equals a set amount when the player approaches a wall, it will execute the cover system automatically. In this system, the player is either able to blind fire, hardly exposing their hitbox, or they may aim down sights, giving them a better shot, but will expose them more. The major differences between the two is that Call of Duty, you have to be really close to the wall's trigger volume to get into cover. But in Gears 5, the volume trigger is much wider, where the player doesn't need to be up against the wall, rather just close enough to slide to it. But if you're standing still with no velocity, the player will only roll and not get into cover. So if that player is not in that set trigger volume, the player will just do his roll and not get into cover. Well, thank you guys for listening to my presentation and hope you guys have a great day.